السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لقد كان في قصصهم عبرة لأولي الألباب، ما كان حديثا يفترى، ولكن تصديق الذي بين يديه وتفصيل كل شيء وهدى ورحمة لقوم يؤمنون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. As I alluded to yesterday, inshallah, the topic that we will be discussing will be about the stories of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam that are mentioned in Quran. And as I mentioned, that every word in Quran is there for a reason. Just to understand this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran mentions a grand total of 25 Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam by name. There are a few that are referred to without their names. But by name, Allah ta'ala only mentions 25 in Quran. Anyone here know how many Anbiya alayhi salatu Anbiya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent on this earth? There is a hadith in Muslim Ahmad in which the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent about 124,000 prophets to this earth. And out of 124,000, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only mentions 25 by name. So there is a wisdom, there is a purpose. As I mentioned yesterday, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran says, why do we relay them to you? You know, it's very easy to take a surface review of Quran and say, oh, these stories are just telling us one main principle. They went through struggles, and Allah Ta'ala eventually helped them. And we may think that's the lesson we can take from them, and that's it. But really, the stories and the prophets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to put in Quran, they have a practical benefit for you and I. And inshallah, throughout Ramadan, as many as we can cover, we'll try to derive those practical lessons. The first thing we must understand is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. If you want to derive benefit, you have to change your mindset first. Allah Ta'ala brought this religion and this deen for us to benefit ourselves. That's the reason we are created. So that we can worship Allah, and then when we die, we hope that Allah gives us paradise, which ultimately benefits us. Allah doesn't get any greater by putting us in paradise. He could turn us all into dust. It would mean nothing to Allah. So whatever we do, this deen, this way of life is meant to benefit us. If you don't change your mentality, your thought process, then you may be victim of shaitan. And he'll tell you, oh, these are just stories of people of the past, and yeah, this and that. There's nothing you can derive from them. We're not like them. They were prophets of Allah. We can't be anything like them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very clear. If you want to take benefit from them, then whom do you have to be of? What category of people? Allah says, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ. Indeed, in their stories, ibrah is a lesson. But then Allah makes it clear. Who will take a lesson from them? Ulil albab. Those who have intellect. Those who have some sense of intelligence. Some sense of understanding. If you look at Quran and you think you can't derive anything from it, or you look at these stories and you don't try to ponder upon what Allah is telling you, then there'll be stories for you. There'll be children's stories for you. And that's it. And that's all the benefit you'll take. So the first thing you have to do is you have to listen to the stories, you have to read the stories in a way where you're trying to find the lessons, or else you won't find it. Now with that being said, the first prophet is also the first human. The first prophet is also the first human. How was Adam alayhi salam created? A very interesting, there are different narrations we find. But Adam alayhi salam, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fashioned mankind, made mankind, is that the angel of death, he came to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he collected soil or dirt or mud, however you want to interpret it, from throughout the world. From throughout the world. Our complexion is based on that dirt that we were created from. Some dirt is red, some dirt is not red, some dirt is black, some dirt is brown. Based on the dirt we were created from, that's the complexion we have. So the angel of death collected all this dirt, and he showed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took this combination, this mixture of dirt from different places, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in some narration it says this, whether it's exactly the case is irrelevant, but a place that was between Makkah and Ta'if, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed this soil and put water, mixed water with it, and for 40 years Allah allowed it to be in that state. For 40 years. 40 years later, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that mud eventually became clingy, started making, you could like slap it and make some noise out of it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed it to stay dry for 40 years. Once it stayed dry for 40 years and it became black, and it became smelly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took that dirt. It's important to understand this, right? Because this is our creation. If you ever want to think you're such a great person, understand your own creation, how you're made, what you're made of, right? What you're made of. It's very dirty, a very dirty fluid. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala molded mankind. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inserted a heart and a soul into it. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transported this fashioned body, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then took it to paradise. But I want to mention one thing. While this soil was there, the malaika would come and go and look at it as it was, being molded, and it was sitting there and it was being created. The malaika would come up and down and they would look at it. Just ponder upon what is being made. One day, Shaitan came. Now, he wasn't Shaitan at the time, and I'll mention his name later on, inshallah. He comes and he sees this. Now, he knows what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing. We all know it's very famous. We all know Shaitan was in the heaven with the malaika for a long time. So, he comes and he looks at this, and he says, this hollow soil, this is a weak creation. Because he saw the head, and it was attached to the shoulders. He saw the legs, and it was attached to your hip area. And he saw the stomach, and it was empty. And he knew that's where he can take advantage of us from. God forbid, if we find ourselves in a state where we have absolutely no food. Imagine what a person is willing to do to give themselves food. People are willing to kill to fill that empty place. So Shaitan knows this. And it's also another way. If it's too full, then he's going to tempt you more to sin. Because when you have a full stomach, you have enough time to think of something else. When you don't have a full stomach, you're too busy hungry. You don't have time to think of anything else. So Shaitan at that moment looked at our creation and said, look, this is a weak creation. So he utilizes that to take advantage of us. And this is, wallahu alam, this is how it's explained to us in narration, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fashioned our body. Now there is one hadith that we hear about Adam alayhi salam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam ala surati. Now, some people misunderstand this hadith, and they think, and maybe you hear it all the time from Christians or whatnot, that Allah created man in his own image. This is not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. Remember one principle of Allah. It's in Quran and it's clear. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. And if you understand Arabic, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very clear by saying kaf, saying mithal, that nothing is like Allah. Like we don't have an image for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That suratihi means And then we'll leave it at this, inshallah, because there's a lot to talk about Adam alayhi salam, and I could go on all night. We may not get to Taraweeh. What this means is that Adam alayhi salam is the only human being, or with Hawa alayhi salam, but these are the only two human beings that were created adults. Created adults. Meaning he didn't go through the process of being a baby and growing up being a kid and then becoming a teenager and then getting into older age. He was created as an adult, and that's the way he died. And this is what the hadith refers to when it says that Adam alayhi salam was created in that image. He wasn't raised and changed, or as some people say, we were apes and maybe we evolved into humans. According to our belief, and as a belief as a Muslim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fashioned us with his own hands, and then he created Adam alayhi salam as an adult, and inshallah we'll go from there tomorrow. Jazakallah khair.